Hello, and welcome to the Broken Shifter Podcast. I am your host for today, Caboose. I'm met by my fellow co-host, Hurdon, and our reappearing, hopefully, guest, Justin. How you guys doing today?
Yay.
Not bad.
Gotta hype it up a little bit more than that. Come on, we're doing the fucking podcast.
Daytona.
Yay.
Alright, well, we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this. What'd you guys think of the race? Just the race itself, ignoring like the new rules and regulations, the race itself. What do you think of it? Start with Justin.
Well, first of all, I've obviously just started watching the race or the season this year more actively. I watched like Sonoma last year and Miami. I think I watched Bristol. But this is my first race actively watching and knowing some of the drivers. But I enjoyed it. Uh, there were a lot of crashes, which were really great for newcomers. But I could also follow some of the drivers I like to watch, and especially some of the ones that were like considered rookies or considered, I guess, lower level drivers. So I enjoyed it.
As
What
for
about you,
me,
Erden?
yeah, as a veteran of NASCAR, I guess you could say, I've been watching since I was a little kid, so almost 30 years. Uh, I, I don't know. You said you didn't want to talk about the format, but I feel like it really altered the way the race ran because of segments and stuff like that, and we'll get to that, but there was a lot of excitement for new fans, that's for sure. Having Monster on board, you're gonna draw a lot of fans. They want to see Rex. I personally don't want to see that many at Daytona, but there was a lot of hard racing, and just in my opinion, the race was good, but it lasted so long because of the wrecks, and you tore up millions and millions of dollars worth of race cars.
All right, well, let's go ahead and hop into the format since you brought that up. I thought because of the format, the racing actually became a little bit better. Because of those big wrecks, the teams actually had a small break due to the segments to actually, okay, to breathe, to figure things out. I thought the segments made the racing better. I don't feel like it contributed to the wrecks themselves. One thing I noticed is that some years the drivers they just want to go for it. They want to race as hard as they possibly can. So I think when it comes to segments, perfectly fine with it. I just wish that when Fox said we're going commercial free or side by side, they actually went commercial free or side by side. And Fox did come out and say, "My bad." When it came to the damage policy of 5 minutes of initial repair and prove that you can get up the minimum speed and then come back in and do as much repair as you want, I love the idea. Granted, it took the field down to almost half the size by the end of the Daytona race, but it's a lot better than having mass packs of extraordinarily slow cars falling behind because of those damages. Uh, but that's just how I feel about it. What about you guys?
I want to chime in on this one first and say about the segments. I feel like they're good for the other races, not plate tracks, and I'll tell you why. Uh, Kyle Busch wound up spinning out in front of the lead pack and causing a big wreck because of the sole fact of segments. And it's not just because I'm a junior fan and because he took out quite a few cars. He spun out up there, and segments were the only reason he was actually in that position in the first place, because the JGR cars were early pitting to try and stretch it, and they were using strategy and stuff like that. If there was no segments, that never would have happened. That's my opinion on that. Justin.
I saw a lot of pros and cons with the new segment system. Uh, Obviously, like the ones that Killam mentioned, they seem to have uh, a reverse effect than what I think a lot of people thought. I think people thought there was going to be wrecks at the end of the segments, when people are racing to get those points, but there really wasn't any. The biggest issue though was definitely the pit strategy. I think that some of the teams are using, like you said. Overall, I think I like the segments breaking it up like that, but yeah, there's definitely a few issues with it. I think.
I think it'd
Also,
be good
another thing I don't
except for
like.
except for plate tracks. I I mean,
Yeah,
it's not good there. Everywhere else, great.
Yeah.
there's one key thing I didn't like was the lack of or them using up laps to do a caution. Like they're using up what 5 to 10 laps per segment, like somewhere in that realm,
Yeah,
and that's a lot of wasted laps that are just going around and around and around, which they wanted to speed up. I thought the NASCAR races, but now it just feels like they've slowed them down drastically with doing that,
it was a long race.
and I don't like that aspect.
Yeah, the 2 or 3 red flags didn't help.
No, it was a long.
That's
It was because so many cautions. Caboose. Next topic.
Next, well, real quick, I do want to address a couple issues that did occur during the race. One, a bonehead move. Eric Jones pulling right back onto the track when the entire pack was on the way.
And he wasn't
There's a
the
couple
only
people
one.
who did that,
He wasn't the only one. Truex did it as
but the
well.
others were rookies.
Truex and Eric Jones
Truex
did
was
it
just
back to
rookie.
back.
He's experienced. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think it's total bullshit that Kyle Busch called out Goodyear uh, for making bad tires when he was the only one that had a failure.
isn't Toyota the only one that are having the issues this year?
Can I chime in
Yeah,
on this real
They,
quick?
they were the main ones that had that issue last year. So.
I want to just put something out there. Kyle Busch has an excuse for everything in the book. NASCAR tells them what Goodyear recommends them to run for tire pressure, and his complaint was that Goodyear the tires can't hold pressure. That's bullshit. They're running the tire pressures too goddamn low, and that's the
Or
problem.
too damn high.
What not at Talladega because the tires heat up so damn quick. But that's what it is. They're running them too low. That's why they have so many problems at Indy. Kyle Busch is a whiner, and it's bullshit. He's a pansy ass.
Yeah, I will agree there. And like I said, calling out a manufacturer because you had a faulty tire but everyone else is fine. No. I can't remember what race it was last year that everyone was having faulty tires. That, okay. But when you're the only one, don't do stupid crap like that.
No.
I know you have the nickname of Rowdy, but that's just you being an idiot.
He could have just run over a piece of debris for all we know.
Exactly.
Because it was on entry to the turn, and he took out the whole leader section there, even though it was off sequence and stuff.
You should also be letting off for the leader pack. I think I don't like the whole thing about somebody at the back of the pack being a lap down and getting in the way of the leaders. It's just irritating.
Well,
Well,
at Daytona, they can
Logano
hold
was
the
fine.
draft.
He wasn't
What you're
getting in the
supposed
way
to
of
do.
anyone. He was staying there. Kyle Busch was just kind of like there. He was irritating.
What you're supposed to do, on the most part, if you are slower than the leader, which Kyle Busch was almost on par with Junior,
Older
if you're
cars.
slower than the lead car, you
Or
stay
newer
in your
cars, excuse
lane
me.
and you have the leaders pass you. If you're on par, that's when it's okay to fight. But it's a whole different story. Let's go ahead and get on to our next subject.
Let me step in on that one real quick too, because Kyle Larson stayed out on a 2-tire stop at the beginning of the race and really held the inside line up pretty bad. So that tells you what tires do at Daytona, because the outside line had not worked in the first run. And then Kyle Larson staying out on 2 tires just bottled that inside lane up. And if you couldn't get out of it, you were screwed. Dale Jr. was obviously the recipient of that the worst because he was right behind him. So obviously tires are making a difference, and this strategy thing I'm just not a fan of with the segments at the plate races. At other tracks where you spread out, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. And speaking of Dale Jr., that brings us into our next subject, the return of Dale. How do you guys feel like he performed?
Justin, would you
Thought he
care
was
to
back
go
to
first?
normal.
No.
He looks about as good as I've ever seen him. He won or he managed to get a really, really fast qualifying time. I believe he won, or he would have won his,
Should have.
what that's called, not the Clash, but
The qualifying race.
yeah, he would have won that, I'm pretty sure. I didn't actually see that race in person, but I watched the replay of it.
Yeah, he had a
But I thought he
really
came back
stout
strong.
car. Yeah, he looks more focused now than I've seen him in a while. I mean, he's had his tracks, which have been the plate tracks, and then Phoenix, Martinsville, Bristol seem to be right up his alley. Been strong at Richmond lately. I'm expecting a lot out of him. He always starts the season real strong, and he took a little bit of a lick this week, but he passed concussion protocol and everything like that, which they do mandatory now, just for anybody that doesn't know that. And he looked solid. I mean, he led some laps, and if it wasn't for Kyle Busch blowing a tire in front of him, or so-called blowing a tire in front of him, then who knows who could have won the race, because that wrecked a lot of really, really good cars.
Yeah, and one thing that I found to be very interesting, and I'm very happy that he did, is he did a self-evaluation for concussion while in the car. And
Right.
I'm very happy to see that he himself knows that this is a problem, so he addressed it there on the spot before anyone else arrived.
And he
So he can
really
at
did.
least give him an idea.
Yeah, and he had the option to stay out on the track and try and make minimum speed, and instead he took it to the garage.
He was being very responsible. And I'm happy to see a driver be responsible like that.
Right, which a lot of these people don't, but yeah, you know what it is.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah, we're
concussion might have helped
definitely
him
Yeah,
quite a bit. Kind of like the concussion that happened with the Carolina Panthers quarterback.
Cam Newton.
As soon as he got, Cam Newton. As soon as he got into that car accident, he came back way stronger. This is kind of like, I'm thinking that same scenario.
Dale
similar.
always starts the season off strong. He tends to have that summer swoon. But anyways, Caboose, what we got next?
Up next, I want to talk about some of the rookies. We already talked briefly about Eric Jones and how he made a bonehead move.
Right.
But we did have some more rookies this year, one of which made his official full-time debut, even though he did race the car a couple times before. Ty Dillon he put on a decent show until he got caught up in a wreck or two.
Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad at all. He was doing good for my fantasy league, I'll tell you that.
It just got caught up in a wreck.
Yep. And it happens at Daytona.
Daniel
The new track.
Suarez was kind of a day to forget for him. Ryan
Yeah.
Blaney, even though not a rookie, he's still kind of in that class with Chase Elliott and all them. Ryan Blaney put on a show. That boy's going to be good.
Yeah, both him and Chase Elliott, since you put Blaney in there, might as well throw Elliott in there since they started the same year. They're both going to be absolutely phenomenal drivers. And I can't think of who Ryan Blaney reminds me of, but Chase Elliott, watching him last year, reminded me a lot of his father and Dale Earnhardt Sr. Watching him at the plate track, I see a lot of Dale Sr. and Chase
Oh yeah,
at the plate track.
he wasn't putting up with no shit. That's for damn sure. I
He
like
had a
the way he
fast
was
car and he
racing.
wasn't afraid to show it.
I like the way he was racing. Justin?
So definitely interesting year for rookies.
I don't really know any of the rookies specifically, so I can't really chime in on specific ones. But just from not knowing that rookies actually do race in the Daytona 500 until this race, I find it kind of cool that they get their chance. Could find the next Alex Bowman for all we know, but at the same time, I saw it being a bit of an issue in that race. Like they made some mistakes that
There
almost
were.
cost a lot of cars
Yeah.
pulling back up onto the track and things. I know a few seasoned or veteran drivers did it too, but and
Aaron
then
Jones,
I don't know if
worst
that
offender.
did they ever decide if that was a brake issue or not when he almost slammed in when that one green car almost slammed into the back of
Yeah, that was a
Who
big
he almost
issue.
slammed in the back of, and then he completely missed the pit box.
I think we
He
got to look at
nearly hit Boyer.
I think we got to look at Jeffrey Earnhardt for making a bonehead move too. When Elliott Sadler and the guy in front of him both were signaling out their window net that they were pitting or whatever,
Well, that's the
and
thing,
Jeffrey
though.
Earnhardt just ran right
Well,
into the back of him. It was just
Whether or
can't
not
he
he
really.
knew
never
though,
slowed down. I mean,
did he
maybe the
see
Yeah.
drivers
the
behind him
hand though?
didn't.
Because
That's something
he
that
was
was
two
a
cars
little
behind the guy who
off-center.
was doing the wave. So maybe he was like, oh, I couldn't tell exactly. I didn't watch the replay, but maybe he was to the right a little bit and couldn't see his hand, and maybe the
Yeah.
spotter just didn't tell him for some reason.
So
Could have been a
basically, what
spotter
ended up
fault. Who
happening
knows?
is I forgot who was going into the pits, and then we had Elliott Sadler behind him, and then Jeffrey Earnhardt behind Sadler. The
right.
first guy waved his hand. Elliott Sadler waved his hand to signal, "Hey, someone's pitting." And Jeffrey Earnhardt was a little off center, if I remember correctly. So I'm not necessarily going to call it a bonehead move, but I do think because I do think that there is a small plausibility that he just didn't see the hand itself. Now, yes, the spotter is supposed to be watching him, um, so there might have been miscommunication. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but if he does something like that again, yeah, no, I'm just gonna
I'm going to be
dismiss it.
honest, and we can get on from the subject. I'm not giving him the benefit of the doubt because he was right on Sadler's bumper, and the guy in front of Sadler threw his hand out the window. Sadler said, "Yep, I'm good. I'm going to." And Jeffrey Earnhardt's just, I mean, he's in crap equipment trying to make a name for himself, and he just, in my opinion, made a bonehead move.
Yeah. You rolled a 10, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know we had a couple more rookies, but I can't remember who they were. We had LaJoy, who had brake failure and
Oh,
almost
Jesus.
destroyed. Yeah, almost destroyed Boyer, cracked it into the wall. He dumped a actually fairly decent driver during the second duel. Or no, wait, the first
He had
duel.
a
That's when he
rough
was.
week.
Yeah, karma. That's what I'm going to claim it as at the 500. It was freaking karma. He just dumped the 55 car during the duel.
Speaking of Boyer, he was around the back of the pack a lot, but he had a strong car.
Yeah, which brings us into our next segment of high-ranking drivers or veteran drivers that normally do well, but didn't have a good day. And I would say
All of
Boyer's
them.
on that list. All of them, yeah.
Kurt Busch is the only
No
one
one
at the
had a
top of the
good
list.
time there. Yeah,
Kurt Busch is the only one that had a good day.
he's the only one that had a good day. Logano, he finished somehow. Uh, who else was a veteran driver that actually managed to finish inside the top 15?
Casey Kane.
Truex finished in the top 15.
Truex,
Casey Kane, he had a real good day. He won a couple
Larson.
laps.
Casey Kane had a decent day.
Well, Larson, I don't know if I'd count him as a
Yeah,
veteran at this point.
Larson's still not got that many years under his belt, but in the top
He still
20,
has a little gleam to his armor.
you got Martin Truex, Denny Hamlin. I mean, Michael Waltrip's a veteran driver, and he had a hell of a good day. He stayed out of trouble the whole time.
He had a hell of a good day.
You,
Paul Menard
How long
finished
has
fifth.
how long's Deep Burrito been racing?
yeah,
D Burrito. I don't know how long he's been racing, but
he's been
not
around a
long
few
enough.
years. It was most of the drivers you're used to seeing at the front of the pack were there. They just
Denny
didn't
Hamlin somehow
finish.
made it
He was involved
after all
in two
those
or
wrecks
three
he was
wrecks.
involved in.
Yeah. But,
He still
Actually,
managed to
not.
finish it.
He finished in 17th.
yeah. Sure did. Elliott Sadler had a hell of a day going too. And he's been, I mean, he's won in the Cup Series before. He's good at restrictor plate tracks. And just
He was dirt cheap on the NASCAR website.
he damn sure was. But just
He's like,
couldn't,
what, $5?
$5, yeah. And just couldn't pull anything off. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't how they drove, it was just fucking bad luck for everybody. There was
Michael Waltrip had a
nobody
pretty
that-
good final race there.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Eric
I'm
Finished
glad.
Almirola finished
top 10,
fourth.
like 8th or something like that.
Yeah, but Eric Almirola is not a guy you
Uh,
see. He's won one race in his career, and it was because of bullshit. It was a rain delay.
yeah. Well, hey, you take the wins where you can.
Well, I
I mean,
know.
look, Chris Buescher, he got his win because someone left the fog machine on down the road.
Well, Dale Jr. broke his streak because of a rain delay. I mean, it happens,
Hmm.
but I mean, you got your cars that dominated, and there was about 10 cars that were the class of the field. Dale Jr., Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson really didn't show up very often. Joey Logano and Brad Keselowski.
Well,
Brad
he went straight to the
Keselowski
back of the
really.
pack off the
Yeah.
beginning. I don't know what he did wrong, but and then suddenly he was back up in the top like 10 or 15 pretty quickly.
Or
And then he got shuffled back, and then he made his way back forward, and then he got taken out.
Yeah,
I said
pretty much.
Brad Keselowski.
It was a roller coaster of emotion.
I didn't mean
Brad
that.
Keselowski,
I meant Brad Keselowski got sucked into a wreck.
okay.
But
And
just
his
clarify
car,
that.
he was doing okay throughout the day. He wasn't doing phenomenal. He was doing okay.
He could pass when he wanted to. All right, let's move on.
Uh, what are some, what are some not so well known drivers or drivers that we don't really see towards the front actually make it somewhere? Michael Waltrip being one. Although yes, he's a veteran, he's only raced the 500 now for the last few years, and that's it.
No.
So we don't see him that much.
No. You're completely wrong. He's raced. This was like his 30th start in the 500. He's won 2 of them.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm saying, as a driver, he's pretty much only raced in the 500 for the last few years. So we
Yeah.
don't see him that much.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
And he kept his car out of
We don't
trouble.
see- Yeah.
I think
I'm not
you gotta
saying
look at,
he doesn't race, period.
you got to look at the whole top 10 and take 15 of those drivers and say, hey, Landon Kessel got a top 20, Cole Witt, Paul Menard, Eric Almirola, AJ Allmendinger, Ryan Blaney, and Matt DiBenedetto got a top 10. Trevor Bayne in a crappy Roush car. Brendan Gaughan. You hardly have any of the big names in there. So, I mean,
Michael McDowell, their equipment was solid. He ran in 3rd place for a minute there.
yeah,
until
he
got
finished
shuffled
15th.
back. Yeah, and that's because he ran out of fuel.
Right, he was
Imagine if
he
he
was
had
running
gas.
about. I think he was running close to top 5 when that happened.
How many
Yeah,
people did
no,
run
he
gas
was
that
he was
race?
sitting back in like 12th when they ran out of gas.
Well, I thought he was a little higher than that.
But
A bunch of them did run, I guess, though.
yeah, lock coasting. Maybe that's when it's good to have a car that's a little down on power. Get yourself a couple extra miles to the
Oh,
tank.
fuel mileage, yeah.
Yeah, man, it was an interesting race for both rookies and veterans. The veterans are pissed off. The smaller teams and the rookies are happy on the most part, unless they were caught up in some of those big wrecks. Even then, a lot of them did make it to the end. Let's go ahead and move on to the next. Next topic. Here we go. What were some of the big wrecks that happened? With it being Daytona, we're used to seeing like one big one, and then after that, it's just a bunch of little ones. This year, we saw like 3 or 4 fairly sizable wrecks, which happen all that often anymore.
Nothing like the truck race or the nationwide race, or excuse me, Xfinity.
Still pretty bad though.
Nothing that involved 20 cars, but a lot of mediocre wrecks is like 7, 8, 9 cars. And is like Kurt Busch was caught up in a couple. Denny Hamlin was caught up in a couple. They managed to finish the race, which I guess is a testament to their team for being able to keep the car on the damn track. Because Kurt Busch's car looked like crap when he finished it, but he won the damn race.
Mm-hmm. And
There were, let's see, Menard, I think, was one of the few cars that were still remained untouched. And he managed to finish up
Nard,
there.
I think Austin Dillon, and then like one other car.
I don't
When
think
we were
Waltrip's
like,
car was touched.
I
I
don't
don't remember.
And taking a look at it, it's like 20 to go. There were 5 cars that weren't touched. and that slowly trickled down to about 3 cars in the very end, which, for the sake of entertainment, that's great. For the sake of the teams, that sucks, but I thought we got some pretty good racing out of it, and that makes me happy.
That's where the segments came in. It helped with having the segments. You know, you had that helped
had the
get
time to
real
fix your
racy
shit.
towards the end of the segments. Like Joey Logano and Chase
Like
Elliott were
Logano.
going at it.
Yeah.
They really did, but at the same time, I don't see where the segments at the plate tracks are doing any benefit.
Yeah. So, but overall, I think the wrecks, although there were some big ones, I think they could have been far worse, especially since no one got airborne. And we didn't see a giant yellow truck with 88 on it flip because, it's not the truck
Minecraft.
series. But man, that was crazy, man. That 88 truck freaking flipping through the air, then nailed the landing or just about. It was impressive. I know the driver
Didn't
has no
touch the roof.
dictation over whether or not the truck lands on all 4, but the fact
Do a
that
barrel
did
roll.
happen. Yeah. And need to put like a little cut of the dude freaking doing that. The barrel
Move
roll.
out down to final comments here.
Yeah, I think at
Can
this
I
point
just
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just quickly point out Logano's pit strategy at the beginning, pulling in around lap 15 or something like that, and 50 to 20, and then he managed to finish 6th. Found that kind of
worked out.
interesting.
Look what happens when you have a loose tire. It allowed you to finish in the top 10 at the Daytona 500.
He did have a fast car too.
I think the Rex kind of helped, but
At least this time he
Back
wasn't
up there
pulling
again
a
a
jack
little
around. Man, that was the
Penske,
funniest damn thing
definitely
I've
had
ever
some
seen.
fast cars.
Uh-uh.
But
Well, I think
how about
that
picks for Atlanta real quick?
I was about to say that pretty much ends it for the Daytona 500. When he cut me off. Asshole.
I'm good at that.
But yeah, going to Atlanta, what would you expect from the driving standpoint, racing standpoint, just in general?
Well, Atlanta's been repaved now, so
Nope. This is the last race.
Hasn't
It's not
been repaved
repaved.
yet.
oh, not repaved yet. Okay, so
Last time round.
I'm gonna take one pick. I'm not gonna pick an underdog. I'm gonna go Jimmy Johnson.
Jimmy Johnson. Justin?
having absolutely no idea who's good at this track or even really this track at all.
Just pick Kyle Busch.
So I'm just gonna take a shot in the dark. I'm gonna say Logano. Why
You
not?
know what? Funny enough,
Complete shot
I
in the
was going to pick Logano as well. Logano, he can't save tires, and there's no tires to save, and he's
But
a
he
dirt
can
track
lead
boy,
some
so
laps.
getting sideways. Getting sideways is his spiel.
I'm gonna take
So,
Johnson. You
those
two are
are-
taking Logano.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Going to be interesting.
Sounds fun.
I think that about wraps it up. I think we're going to see some interesting racing at Atlanta, as always, because of the old-ass pavement. A lot of people getting
Can I just say
sideways.
real quick?
What's up?
I picked Kurt Busch. I picked Kurt Busch in my Yahoo thing. My Yahoo fantasy thing.
He's so
And I got
proud
it.
of that.
Watch him blame the tires.
Yep.
So proud. You only get him
Alright.
9 times, asshole.
Yeah.
He's gonna have that burn up.
Well,
in
he
no
got his
time.
one win.
All right, wrap her up.
I think, yeah, that about ends it. This was the Broken Shifter Podcast, episode 2. This is the NASCAR 2017 Monster Energy Series. And we will see you guys next time.
Bye.